So welcome everyone to the 24th annual Miami Jewish Film Festival, one of the world's largest and oldest Jewish cultural arts events. We want to thank all of our members, sponsors, community partners, volunteers, all of you film lovers, and especially our presenting sponsors, the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education, SAGE, as well as the Greater Miami Jewish Federation for their continued support throughout all these years. My name is Ezra Tzfadia. I'm a visiting faculty member this year at Indiana University, Bloomington, and I'm in the finishing stages of a dissertation at the University in Islamic Studies at the University of Nuremberg. I'm teaching a course right now, Introduction to Modern Jewish History, as well as a class on Zionist and anti-Zionist political thought. I'm really excited to be moderating a virtual conversation with the directors of Masel Tov Cocktail, Arkadij Khaet and Mickey Paatzsch. I hope I've pronounced your names correctly. And the movie is premiering at this year's festival. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
So I just want to start off just by saying that as someone who's lived in Germany for 7 years and coming from the United States, the film really captured a lot of things that I myself encountered when I was in Germany, even though it was a completely different context than a neighborhood in the industrial Ruhr Valley in an immigrant housing complex. That's not really where I spent my time, primarily in Berlin, but it was a familiar kind of landscape. So I just first wanted to ask you to tell us a bit about yourselves, where you're from, where you've lived and where you live now. How did you get into filmmaking and acting, and what inspired you to put on this film?
So I'll start quickly, and then Mickey will take over. So I was born in Moldova, on the verge of the fall of the Soviet Union. And when I was very little, I think around 3 months old, my parents immigrated to Germany. It was the famous Jewish immigration from the Soviet countries. I think 200,000 people came to Germany, Jewish immigrants. At the same time, I think 500,000 went to the US and another 2 million to Israel. So it is just 3 places. And yeah, we came here. We came to the Ruhr area. We came to a place called Oberhausen. It's not far from where we are now, Mickey and I. And that's where I grew up. When I finished school here, I was very involved in Jewish youth movements. I went on my gap year to Israel. I came back, started studying film in Cologne. It's where I met Mickey. And that's where I did my BA. And now I'm doing my diploma in directing in south of Germany. But right now, due to COVID, we are in our shared flat in a place called Duisburg, West Germany. Yeah, so we're sitting next to each other in different rooms.
Sure. How about you, Mickey?
Yeah, my story isn't as exciting as Arkadij's. I'm born in Düsseldorf, Germany. That's quite near also to Duisburg. It's next to the Ruhrgebiet. It's like the area we speak of in Masel Tov Cocktail. My grandparents, they're from Croatia, but I don't have a Jewish background at all. I got involved into these issues when I met Arkadij at the film school. We studied there for 3 years, did our bachelor together and shot our first movies. And yeah, when I finished and Arkadij went to another film school, I started to study philosophy, and last year I finished my master's thesis, and now we live together and work on the next project. Yeah.
Wonderful. So to jump sort of into the content that's presented in the film and the different themes, just wanted to start with a broader demographic question for many in our audience who might have no clue that there is this resurgence or return or whatever you want to call it of Jewish life and Jews in Germany. What do the demographics look like? You said 200,000 people moved from the Soviet Union, Jews moved from the Soviet Union to Germany.
Yeah.
How many Jews are in Germany? How many are from the Soviet Union? How many remained from after the war? How many are now all these young people moving from Israel to Germany? What's the demographic situation like at the moment?
Maybe first to give the bigger picture.
Sure.
It's 82 million people in Germany. 25% roughly do have like a migration background. And I think it's like the half of this number, 12.5%, they don't have a German passport.
Yeah. So now let's get to the Jews. So the war is over, 1945. I think there are no Jews in Germany. Something like 5 to 10,000 people in DP camps. And between 1945 till 1990, on the end of 1990, before the fall of the Soviet Union, there were around 20,000 to 25,000 Jews in Germany. So let's say 10,000 in West Germany and 15,000 in East Germany. That's about it. So no big Jewish life, no communities, no synagogues, especially not in East Germany, of course. And when the Soviet Union fell apart, the German government, they saw this like momentum to rebuild Jewish life in Germany after Second World War, because they saw, I mean, there were around, I think, 5 million Jews on the territories of the Soviet countries, and they thought, okay, let them immigrate so we can rebuild Jewish life in Germany after Second War. That's our chance. And I think most of the people from Soviet Union went to Israel. The second most went to the US, and the little number of 200,000 people went to Germany. So nowadays, more than 90% of members of Jewish communities and Jews living in Germany are from former Soviet Union. They speak Russian, or they grew up speaking Russian. They're from countries like Russia, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, and so on. And I would say the Jewish life in Germany is not religious, it's secular, as it's made out of the dissidents of the Soviet Union. I mean, my parents were raised totally atheist. I would say it's like kind of an ethnic Judaism, right? I mean, it was an ethnic group in the Soviet Union, and people knew they are Jewish just because they had a Jewish name or it was written down in their passport. They experienced anti-Semitism, discrimination. That's how they didn't forget that they are Jewish, actually. And I feel like now the people who were born here, the children of the Soviet immigrants, they are the ones who kind of, the first generation in Germany who went through Jewish education, Jewish summer camps, Jewish day schools, and they are bringing the Jewish culture kind of back into their parents' families now. And I think there is another phenomenon. It's the Israeli migration of Jewish life, but it's not to Germany, it's mainly to Berlin. I would say Berlin is the #1 destination for young Israelis after the army. I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say between 20 and 30,000 Israelis nowadays living in Berlin now.
Sure. I mean, what's very interesting, I think, for some of our viewers that may be attracted to this particular film and the German connections is that many American Jewish leaders and American Jews have been brought over to Berlin to learn more about Jewish life in contemporary Germany, brought over by all sorts of foundations and German government programs that are giving them a window into how German society is dealing with its memory of the Holocaust and the ways that Germany is promoting diversity and tolerance, and not washing over the challenges presented by anti-Semitism or xenophobia. But I think what's interesting in your film is that you're presenting, like you said, another Germany, a Jewish Germany that's outside of this Berlin bubble, let's call it. And I wonder if you could talk more about these dynamics of kind of that you relate in your film, this kind of official line emanating from cosmopolitan Berlin about Jews and remembrance of the past and promotion of tolerance, and then what's actually going on the ground throughout Germany.
Mm-hmm. That's a very big complex.
Yeah, I threw a lot out there. Sorry, maybe you can parse it apart a bit.
So we can speak about the German self-image, what I referred about already. I mean, the self-image is to continue Jewish life in Germany, and it's not made out of love for the Jews, like you can argue, but it's made more out of love for the German self, to prove to themselves to be like the good German nation, and to prove for that are living Jews in Germany. So what's happening is that Jews are coming, and the German government gives a lot of money for big community, big synagogues in city centers, just to make visible there is Jewish life in Germany nowadays. And on the one hand, you can argue, of course, I mean, it's great that it's happening, and it's great that Jews can migrate to Germany. But on the other side, I mean, growing up, you find yourself a little bit of being an object of this strategy of proving Jewish life in Germany. Does it make sense to you? So
yeah,
I would say there is this big complex of culture of remembrance in Germany, and there is this big narrative which is kind of made up. You find out this big narrative of the Nazis are gone, the denazification took place. Now they are the good Germans. There's no anti-Semitism. That's what Germans tell to themselves all the time, just for this idea. So I made this clear, I think. At the same time, you can think, okay, Germans are very interested in Jewish culture, but they are not. The only thing Germans do know, I'm a bit radical when I'm speaking, but I think the only thing that what Germans know about Jews is actually that 6 million were killed, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. So when Germans think of Jews, they see pictures in their head of being black and white. When they hear the word Jew, they think of Holocaust, they think of Hitler, they think of anti-Semitism. Maybe they think of Israel, and that's the whole knowledge they have. I mean, before we started the project, we thought that the only reason why Jews in Germany are talked about is the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, and the Germans know the Jews only from the position, we are the perpetrators, you are the victims, and Jewish culture is approached only through that way, if it's approached at all in Germany. Mm-hmm. And of course, this is not the reality. I mean, the Jews living here, they're not religious, they're secular, they don't wear kippah, they don't have their life in black and white images, they don't listen to klezmer, they listen to hip hop. They're not from Israel. I mean, when you ask Germans on the street where the Jews from, they will tell you from Israel, but because no one knows about this migration. This migration is not visible at all, not in television, not in cinema, not also in the media very much, Mm-hmm. And that's why we thought we should make a film about it, and to explain ourselves and to explain, okay, what this is all about, and to challenge this culture of remembrance as it is told in mainstream Germany. There was a lot. I don't know, we can go also into...
I kind of blends into the next question, and feel free to jump in at any time, Mickey. So in what way would you say this film is a biographical or a fictionalized biographical version of the kinds of challenges you went through, and where might it depart from your own experiences?
Maybe ask Mickey to answer it for me as what he thinks, how much is biographical and how much is die part.
Yeah, I think I think every situation which is shown in the movie is based on biographic facts of Arkadij. Maybe not the one at the Mahnmal. I don't know how to call it in English.
Memorial.
Like
Holocaust.
memorial. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The memorial, the dancing girls that didn't happen. Of course, in Berlin, there's a similar memorial where people are sitting on the stones, and so we caught up this idea from there. Yeah, but I think like the most situations, of course, they are exaggerated and dramatized, but they happened.
I wouldn't say that much exaggerated. I would rather say that like all the scenes is a Jewish experience in Germany, okay? And it's something a Jew experienced in Germany maybe over a couple of months or over a couple of years, and now we danced it to a day. So we condensated to a day in the life of Dima Lieberman. So he meets all the people, but all these people, we called them in script development, we called them archetypes in the German Jewish dialogue. So this like character archetypes, like this teacher, or also the guy on at the traffic light. You meet them every time. You meet them. I met so many people who tell you they see you, you know, a little bit like an alien because they never met a Jew, so they're super curious and super interested. And it's something very exotic being Jewish in Germany. That's how we picked it up. So I would say like, yeah, it's not a documentary, and it's still fiction, but sure, it's taken from real life, all of it.
Yeah, I mean, just from my own experience in Germany, you see people at the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin taking pictures, you know, posing in front of those monuments, and a lot of the times uploading them to their dating profiles. And there's another scene that brought me back myself, where again, I don't know why this is coming back to dating profiles, but I went on a first date with someone, and he suggested for a second date that we go together and volunteer and clean the stepping stones, the Stolpersteine, together.
Wow.
That just trying to think of things that our viewers in Miami wouldn't be familiar of. What are these stepping stones that the kid that Dima in the film punched, that he was cleaning at the in that scene? What are they? Explain what's going on there.
So
maybe you can explain it like it's a mixture of memorial and art, you could say. They are like on the ground at houses where Jews lived before they were expelled in Nazi Germany. So it's like little stones in a golden color lying in front of the houses. And it's the names written of the Jewish families who were deported.
I would say I think it's the biggest decentralized European memorial. So it's not only in Germany, but also in countries like Netherlands, France, Poland. It's all over Europe. I mean, most of them are in Germany because the project started in Germany, and it's made by a guy called Gunther Demlik. And basically this guy, for the last, I think, 15 or 20 years, he's going around all these countries and places and putting down these stumbling stones. And the idea, they're like kind of like golden colored stones, and the name is engraved of the person. So it says, for example, Samuel Hirsch lived here. He was deported. He was born then, deported then, and died in Auschwitz-Birkenau in May 1944, for example. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
have you ever literally tripped on one of them yourself?
Yeah, there's a there's a big debate going on, especially also like it's not a kind of a Jewish idea to make this. It's a non-Jewish idea, and inside the Jewish community there is debate like, is it right to put them or not? For example, a city like Munich, the Munich Jewish community is against this project, and so you won't find a single stumbling stone in the whole city of Munich. In Berlin, they're all over the place, for example, because Munich says it's not right to step on victims of the Holocaust. But yeah, if you ask me personally, it's a little bit strange, I think also. Also, like there's this question, why only put names of Jews who lived here? Why not put also names of the perpetrators who lived next door and write down like where they actually have been and where they lived, you know? So also like the commercial aspect of this whole project is also questionable. You know, you have to pay for the stones. So very often, I think schools do projects, or I buy a house and I find out Jews were living here actually before the Second World War. So I have to invest and to kind of put the stones, and someone is coming and putting them. So it's not a non-commercial project, and people who are doing that, they're making money with it, and they're doing their whole life dedicating to this project, like a guy like Gunther Demlik. And he's a kind of a weird character. No one knows really, like, is this an art project? Is this a remembrance project? Or is this a capitalist project? So,
I mean, interesting you mentioned capitalist project. I once read an article that people were protesting these stepping stones because it'll reduce the real estate value of their apartments. So it's quite a topic. I wanted to ask about setting your critique in the school system in Germany, where this anti-Semitic insult, or I mean, it was grotesque as I watched it play out in that scene in the bathroom. But can you tell me a bit about the school as a site where all these Holocaust memory issues, Jewish, the approach of Germans and Germany towards Jews? Tell me more about the school and how German educators are dealing with the problem of anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic bullying in the schools, and yeah, just a bit more about that.
Yeah, maybe I can start from my experience. It was very interesting because in fact we didn't have one Jew on our school, so maybe I just didn't know, but it was a Catholic Christian school. And I remember like in 8th, 9th grade, like Jew was a curse word on the campus. So it was just pejorative, was like maybe greedy or like asshole or something like this. And people didn't really know what a Jew is because they didn't know anybody who is Jewish at the school. So yeah, but I think it's like a trend. It's still there somehow. Of course, I didn't experience bullying because there were no Jews, but yeah, this was my experience. Yeah.
So the other side is maybe the Jewish experience, or in general, I would say right now, like I said in the beginning, you have 200,000 Jews in Germany. It's roughly, I think, 0.2% of German population. So, I mean, if you're in a place like Frankfurt or Berlin, you might will have Jewish pupils in a school, maybe more than one. But normally the average experience of a Jewish child is being the only Jew in class or even in school. Okay, so you can imagine how this is kind of very quick of being an alien, especially with the fact that people are not used to speak to Jews, to be friends to Jews, and don't know much about Jews. I mean, for many years in my teenage years, I felt like Jews are just names graved into some memorial, you know? So this is the experience you have. And I would say the German school system is totally, how we say, overloaded, overcharged. The teachers are not really professional in dealing with anti-Semitism or even recognizing anti-Semitism. So very often anti-Semitism in Germany is not recognized. And when it's recognized, it's not charged. And when it's charged, it's not charged hard enough. Okay. So I would say it's tough times, and there are many reports about Jewish pupils being bullied in schools, especially in the last years, as it also came, I think it went a bit higher with the Muslim migration to Germany. Also that there are, of course, conflict, like the Middle East conflict is also taken into the schools between like the Jewish kids and the Arab pupils, and it's very complicated. And there were many cases of Jewish kids being bullied and left schools, for example, because the school wasn't able to deal with the conflict inside the school. So they it was easier to remove the Jewish child from the school and put him into a new school, or even better, to a Jewish school, to solve the conflict. And that's what we also refer to in our movie. Yeah.
So you alluded to the Muslim migration to Germany, which took place primarily from Turkey after World War II with the guest worker program, and then the next heavily significant subsequent stream were the refugees arriving from Syria and Afghanistan, mainly in 2015. And when we in the States hear about anti-Semitic attacks in Germany, or instances of anti-Semitism, a lot of the times it's connected to the Muslim community. And I'm wondering if the choice was deliberate in your movie to select a quote unquote native German as the anti-Semitic aggressor. And can you talk in generally about, I don't want to say percentages of anti-Semitic attacks or incidents coming from migrants?
I know, and I totally understand what you're going asking, and it's very important to say. So it's a matter of fact that there is, let's say, political Islamic anti-Semitism, and that people.
You see, I was trying to dance around a very complicated and controversial question.
It's not so controversial. What's controversial about is that, let me start first. There is, of course, Islamic anti-Semitism, what's brought from countries like, let's say, Syria, where anti-Semitism is part of the state philosophy, to be against Israel, to be against Jews. So this is totally something what happens. But there's a big but. The biggest threat to Jews, even today, is definitely the threat of right-wing German native population, and not the one from the Arab countries. And what is happening is that right-wing populist parties are using kind of the fight for anti-Semitism as a reason to let their racism, just flow. So they're kind of saying it's a masking of, we protect the Jews, and it's not protecting, it's just using the Jews as a token to be xenophobic, to be anti-Islam, and to be anti-Muslim migration. So this is, if you see into statistics, all the threats, anti-Semitic attacks in the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in Germany, they were all done by German right, and not by the Islamic. So for myself, it's a much, much higher threat, and it should be named as that. And we shouldn't, it's hard also for Jews not to lose themselves in this discussion, because it's being taken as an object from the right wing, and also being taken as an object from the Jewish side. It's complicated, but this is 100% clear that it's a bigger threat. It's definitely from right wing, and it's not the in 2015, when the refugee crisis took place, many German politicians spoke of Arabs importing their anti-Semitism. There's nothing to import. It's like it was exported from Germany, and it's still here, you know.
Right.
It's nothing but there's no need to import it. And there were statistics of, let's say, I would say 20% of Germans have anti-Semitic views, and it's constant for many years. Now it's maybe a little bit rising because of, like, we have right-wing legitimized parties sitting in parliament, so people are freer to speak out and they feel more brave to let their anti-Semitic views let flow. But it was always the same. And it's not like anti-Semitism is rising because, like, there is a Muslim population growing in Germany.
I think it was interesting in the film that you demonstrated that nexus with these right-wing parties and trying to use the Jewish community for their anti-immigrant Islamophobic purposes with the figure of the grandfather in that scene towards the end, which was powerful. Maybe explain a little bit the rise of this party, the Alternative for Germany, that you demonstrated in that scene at the end, towards the end.
I would say it's not so different than the rise of right-wing parties in other European or even in the States. I mean, it's the same development all over the world, right? Especially, I mean, what's special about it that in Germany, it was for a long time unimaginable that, like, clear anti-Semites sitting in the parliament and kind of, I mean, we saw it for many years. We saw it happening in France with the Front National. We saw it happening in Great Britain. We saw it happening in Poland. So all countries around us, we saw it happening in the Netherlands, and Germany wasn't exclusive, you know, it just happened a couple of years later here. So now there's, and connecting it to the Jewish migration, I mean, the Jews here, like I said, 90% came from former Soviet Union, a very homogeneous country with a very homogeneous society. And I would say it's similar like the Russian immigrants in the US. I believe many of them voting for Republicans, voted for Trump. Same in Israel. Most of the Russian immigrants, they voted for Israel Beitenu, they voted for Likud, they voted for the right conservative parties, and exact same thing is happening here. Mm-hmm. And that's the character, that's the grandfather in our film, because I mean, and also for Dima, it's very hard because, like, he's a next generation and he sees everything from a different point of view, but at the same time, he kind of understands the grandfather's fear of, like, Muslim anti-Semitism. That's what the grandfather is, like, educated about, and that's what he also experienced in Soviet Union. But let's also be clear: the grandfather is kind of maybe also a little bit a racist character, you know. Yeah. I mean, he can be sweet and he can give him a kiss, but at the same time, I don't want to harm things down as saying that, like, he's only afraid of anti-Semitism. That's why he's, like, sympathizing with the right wing.
So just two more questions. I know the conversation is really going well, but I have to be mindful of the time. I want to come back to this theme that repeats itself, or this term that Dima uses throughout the film when he says, "Ich bin kein aggressiver Typ." I'm not an aggressive type of person, or Jew as the aggressor, and that word just kept repeating itself over and over. And I wanted to ask why that was thematically significant for you.
So let's start it here. Jews are assigned with a certain role in Germany, okay? A good Jew is someone who takes the weight away from German shoulders and proves them that they became good and Jewish life is safe in Germany and can prosper. Okay, a good Jew is the one who's participating in memorial days, and he is, like, agreeing on the statements of every politician. That's a good Jew. That's fine.
You continue, sorry.
Yes. And a
In
bad
Miami, a
Jew.
lot of us have landlines because of the hurricanes that hit us. So we
Okay.
need
But there's
landlines.
no hurricane now. Okay.
No, 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 because cell phone towers can fall down. Anyway, please.
So I was saying there is this like the Jews are assigned with a certain role in Germany. A good Jew is the one who takes the weight away from German shoulders, and a bad Jew, an aggressive Jew, is the one who doesn't fit into this rehearsed theater. You know, is the one who doesn't want to be objectified by like so-called major society, and that's why we took him as being the aggressive Jew. And I think it's also how to say, it's also a totally legitimate kind of feeling, being aggressive and being angry. And this is something that people don't really like to see Jews in, I would say. So if you speak also like in filmic cliches, in like Jewish figures in film, the cinematic visibility of Jewish life since in German cinema since 1945 was always the one of being the victim, always the one of running away, hiding. The character biographies and psychologists were always very strongly connected to being victims of the Shoah. So there was a visual construction of Jewishness in German cinema. It was also very much connected to religious Judaism, because I mean, a religious Jew is visible in cinema, right? And that's the only kind of the only thought like German directors had when they were putting Jewish characters in scene. And that's why we thought this kind of character is much more interesting, because it's like so much more authentic, and it speaks out of like the minds of many, many Jews living in Germany now.
So I also wanted to, in that vein, what's been the reception of your film like in Germany? What have people been saying? The critics, audiences? Where has this film been shown? On television, in the I mean, there are no theaters at the moment, but what's the reception the film is getting?
Yeah, we had our premiere, I think, yeah, roughly about 1 year ago in Saarbrücken on the Max Ophüls Film Festival. It's one of the biggest newcomer festivals in Germany for film students and young filmmakers. And yeah, we were very, very nervous because we thought the movie will really divide the audience and will polarize very much. And we were very surprised to see that really, yeah, the big part of the audience liked it very much. And later on the year 2020, the movie was shown in the television, I think 3 times, and then it really received a big push, and it was in the media. We won some prizes. We were nominated for the German Short Film Award. So people were twittering about the movie, and
it was
yeah,
huge.
It
was huge. It was the first time like a movie we did went totally viral and into mainstream. I mean, it was weird to see like how the movie takes off, and like people, like press is writing about it and people are discussing about it, and so many people are watching it outside from this short film bubble, you know. Right. Normally like you do shorts and they're kind of taking place on short film festivals, and they stay inside this bubble of like filmmakers watching other filmmakers' films. But and
I mean, at least from an American perspective, what was interesting, what just was in my mind in the cinematography, and was this combination of documentary and someone acting out a scene, and almost remind me of kind of an infomercial that one would put into high schools to you know, engage students in a discussion, you know, give them someone to identify as the cool kid, and you know, facts juxtaposed against you know,
We
an
didn't
exciting
plan that. We
story.
didn't plan that. Yeah, we didn't plan that, but it's actually happening. So there is a company bought the educational rights for the film. Now it's distributed in German schools, and they're doing exercises with the film. But we didn't think of doing kind of an educational film for usage in school. We just said, okay, let's do a film which is like actually fun to watch. But a film which people watch not because it's an important film to watch. They say, yeah, this is a super important topic. It's about Jews in Germany. You have to watch that. No, just a film which people actually watch to be entertained also and to laugh. And I think humor is here a big, let's say, is the big secret, you know, that people are not used to kind of this topic and a kind of a serious topic also, but at the same time you can laugh about it and it entertains you. And that's why I think it took off and became so, yeah.
No, and you picked an amazing actor, Alexander Wertmann. That's how you pronounce his.
Yeah.
How did he get into this role? What was his process like?
He's Jewish. There was not much to.
Okay. So
we have a huge.
it was almost self-understood.
Yeah, it was so clear everything to him because he made all these experiences in his life. But sorry, Mickey.
No, I just want to say it was very hard for us to find a protagonist and find an actor because, of course, in Germany in this age, being Jewish or looking somehow like a Russian immigrant, Russian background, was very hard to find somebody. So
speaking Russian also, yeah.
Yeah, speaking Russian also. So maybe we found 6 people, and we already thought about casting maybe a Muslim boy because they have like the same minority experience. But then there was like a big fortune, and Arkadij, he's in a like a, how you call
scholarship
it?
Program, yeah.
Where Alex is also listed, and so we got to know him. And we drove to Berlin to meet him. And Alexander is at an acting school, which is centralized very much on theater. So he acts for the big stage, and his acting first was a bit strange because he was speaking
very. You can be honest.
He was speaking very clearly, so for the stage that everybody in the huge room can hear him and understand him. But you know, the teenagers, they are speaking slang, and it's very, different from that. So first it was quite bad, but in this 1 hour, which we had to, to coach him or to rehearse with him, he got so much better, and he experienced all the scenes we showed in the movie because he's a Jew himself. It was just great because he knew everything we were talking about.
It was you could speak with him like you speak to someone who, like Mickey said, and all the castings before you had to explain every scene. I mean, what is the subtext? You know, what are they actually saying in between the lines? And for him, it was all clear. Yeah. And it was it was great. It was his first film.
Yeah.
And sorry, one last question. Us as Americans, we like our happy American endings. I want to ask: is there hope for Jews in Germany to exit this complexes that are thrust upon them? And do you ever imagine Jews really being able to thrive in Germany?
Yeah, there is hope, and there is hope because now is a time, and I see in every kind of fields of art, but also in media, in like representative positions, Jews from this migration wave, they grew old enough to kind of take power, you know. And because like our parents who came to Germany like in the 90s, they had the feeling of like every first migration wave of the feeling of being guests for a long time, and they didn't want to stand out, and they didn't want to like make noise because like they were immigrants, they were Jewish, And now a generation, like their children, has grown up that feels like the masters of the house. They actually want to change. They feel self-confident with their Judaism. They feel self-confident with arguing these things and like questioning this like German Jewish togetherness. Mm-hmm. And I think there is something going on, and there is also a change happening. Masel Tov Cocktail is just a part of something like much bigger. It's not like that we are the ones who thought of all this and we're the first to bring that out. No, there are many, like in different fields of like discussion in society, this process is happening. Yeah.
Great. So thank you so much, Arkadij Khaet and Mickey Paatzsch, for joining us today. I thought it was a great discussion. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And once again, thank you to all of our members, sponsors, community partners, volunteers, all of you film lovers out there, and especially our presenting sponsors, the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education, SAGE, and the Greater Miami Jewish Federation for all their continued support through the years, and especially in this very trying time with the pandemic. And thank you to you, our audience, for participating in the 24th Annual Miami Jewish Film Festival. I'm Ezra Tzfadia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.